ripping people off. I spent $2.6 million. American pedal companies are getting rich. This is one of the most annoying things a builder sees on the internet. He made $10 million in 8 minutes. People pick up a statement like this and treat it as fact. It's so frustrating. Hey everyone, it's Josh here, and someone sent me a very interesting video. It was posted about 5 days ago by John Nathan Cordy, who's a YouTuber. I've actually watched several of his videos over the years, very talented player, but this video is interesting. The title is essentially, are pedal makers, pedal companies ripping us off? And then it has, at JHS Pedals, the Ross situation is interesting, ... something like that. I watched a bit of it, and it's just full of misinformation about how pedals are made, what they cost to make, and there's a lot of assumptions that pedal builders like myself, and frankly, a lot of my friends, from Robert Healy to Brian Wampler to Earthquaker to Strymon to everyone, that we're ripping people off because of some very general observations that are misguided. So I want to watch this video and respond to it and use this as an educational moment for the community. I'm fully aware that people don't do this. Pedal companies really don't go on live streams like I did during the Ross liquidation and tell you what things cost. Today I'm gonna take it even further, and I'm gonna break down even the minutia of the costs. I've heard these kind of things for 15 years. This pedal could be built at home for this much. Why are they charging this much? I just think it's time that I sit here with some humility, show you some answers to this person's questions, and hopefully bring some sort of a beginning to an end to customers thinking that American pedal companies are getting rich and loaded and taking advantage of you. I don't think that's the case. I've yet to meet a single pedal builder who's rubbing their hands together like Scrooge McDuck, taking your money and laughing. It's just not the case. So let's watch this video and go from there.
I don't know if you saw this, but recently JHS and Josh at JHS has decided to stop making the Ross pedals, because essentially I think they had built something like 8,000 of these, and they sold quite a few early on, and then from January to like this time of this year, they've sold like 300 of the pedals, like in total, which has basically shown that they've flopped. I wanted to kind of ask in this video, what does this tell us about how much they're charging for these pedals? Because there was some numbers that were thrown out in this video that kind of made me think, well, something here doesn't really add up.
This channel is supported by Truth.
This is going to be interesting. So, you know, I have no reason to believe there's any, like, you know, this person hates me or anything. This is just a well-meaning person who saw me clearing out pedals at a cost and is assuming we should be able to do that on everything. And it's interesting to them. So we'll see where this goes.
TrueFire is an online library of lessons from some of my favourite players. There's thousands of lessons on there. You can use the promo code JNC40 to get 40% off of any of their courses.
Oh, he was holding a legend. Okay, this is a Legends of Fuzz. It's a little confusing. So he's demoing my pedal for free. Thanks, man. But out of the case. Oh, I know no one wanted this game, but he's playing Eric Johnson, Lonely in the Night. One of my favorite electric guitar solos from a virtuoso. It's definitely a Legends of Fuzz. No, that would be the Crimson, I think. How long is this? Oh my god, that's a long demo. We're gonna skip ahead.
I'm going to take apart my JHS Crimson, which I'm using in the intro there, and just kind of have a look at how many parts are in these pedals.
I don't know if you've ever really thought about it in this way. I certainly haven't. Like, just look.
If you take your pedal apart, you voided warranty, because we have to assume you don't know how to take a pedal apart. I'm already sweating. Here we go.
It without the enclosure, and kind of think about what it is that we're actually doing. It actually sounds pretty incredible. I managed to get it working The ribbon cable is actually the part that is failed in my ham-fisted disassembly. But
he broke the ribbon cable.
We getting ripped off by these pedal manufacturers, or are there other costs that go into making these things that we as just normal people that maybe don't?
Weird.
Pedals don't know.
I'm not an expert on or a pedal builder or anything like that, obviously, but I just kind of, was thinking, like, why are these things... Because he said in that video, the Ross compressor... Well, he said all of the Ross pedals, they can build them for like $76 was the cost price, which to me seems strange because surely all of those circuits require different parts. So surely if it's like a pedal that uses less components, then it'd be less money, you'd imagine, right? So you can get like a Ross clone.
Okay, this is an interesting problem to bring. I mean, it's not a problem. It's a curiosity he's having, and that's fair. You know, when I say the Ross pedals cost about $76 to make, I'm going to blow them out at $79. Yeah, there's some logic that goes, well, they're not all the same circuit. The fuzz is going to have less parts than a compressor. Definitely the chorus, right? Yeah, this is a line of pedals, and we don't think about it so systematically. If we did, we would have different prices per each pedal. You don't think about pedals that way. No one thinks about it that way. If you go to, say, Robert Keeley's website, look at all of his pedals. Every pedal has a different cost to make. Fact. But we don't price every pedal individually all the time. It's irritating to us. It's hard to remember. So you do an average cost. You treat a line of pedals or a brand of pedals with an average. And you go, well, this one's cheaper to make, the fuzz. And then you go, well, the compressor or the chorus, they're more expensive. Where do we strike the average for a good price on these pedals so that one can make a little more money than the one that doesn't make enough money? That's how we generally think about it. So his curiosity is well-founded. But that's how we do that. It's an average cost, an average net cost.
China for like 29 quid. Joyo make a Ross clone. You can get these kind of DIY parts kits, which of course JHS have been involved with, for like 35, 40 quid made in the UK. Seems to me there's actually quite a lot of components on the compressor. I don't know if the fuzz units have less than that. Typically what I know about fuzz pedals, having seen like the fuzz faces, those have so few components in them, like 4 or 5. Oh, I can't actually see the board. It says "From Russia with love, sincerely" in there. So how do I get it out of here? Just undo that. What is all this in here? Rust.
It's hard watching someone disassemble.
I think it was in some ways really interesting to see Josh, who I think is pretty transparent with quite a lot of stuff, seems to really care about building pedals and that sort of thing.
I do.
Because they were being sold for like $189. And if you do the math on that, if they made 8,000 of them, it'd be like a 1.5 million sort of... That was kind of the amount of money that those...
No, this is one of the most annoying things a builder sees on the internet. Every builder friend I know hates this. There's this quick from the hip math. You see me sell a bunch of pedals, you see someone else sell out. Whether this is Chase Bliss or Caroline Guitar or whoever, we all sell out of something, and then someone does this. Number of pedals sold times dollar amount, they're buying a yacht. That's the math equation. So I'm just going to break this down, this one part here. Ross did not make $1.5 million of sales. You are forgetting and probably not thinking at all about the fact that most all Ross pedals I had sold to dealers. So you saw me clear stuff out at 79 after I removed the dealers and bought them back, bought the pedals back. But almost all of them sold to dealers for about $95 to $125, depending on the dealer's relationship with me, the cut they need, is it a distributor, etc., etc. This is called business-to-business model. Most all pedal companies exist with a business-to-business model, not business-to-customer. That's called direct sales. I've started doing some direct sales, but most all of my pedals across the board, 90% of my stuff is business to business. So you're forgetting that. We didn't make 1.5 million. 5,000 plus pedals sold at an average net of $110. That's what I sold Ross for. You're seeing them at 79 straight to you, and it's amazing. Yeah, it is amazing. But I've been selling Ross the whole time for 110. This is what every pedal company does. No one's selling their $200 pedal for $200. We don't make that much money. So I made $440,000 to my 500 plus dealer sales. Then I had to buy back 1,000 at 1-for-1 value. That's a big subtraction. Then I sold 4,000. We had enough parts we were able to keep fulfilling. So originally we all thought like about 3,400 pedals. We had almost 4,000 Ross pedals, which is cool. So more of you got some of these at a blowout. We sold them for 79. That's $320,000. So that math, 440 to my dealers, 320 to you on Friday night at midnight. That's 8,000 pedals, $760,000. As a builder, to see on the internet people pick up a statement like this and treat it as fact is so frustrating. This video has told the public I made double what I made. This assumed forum math or Facebook group math that we see all the time. Josh sold 1,000 Nauticlons, X amount of money. Josh did this. It's not how it works. So let's keep going. And just note, I sold half the amount of money that this video has stated that I sold because the math is wrong.
Generate. Now they're saying the costs $76 cost. Does that build in? Seems to me that if you're still blowing them out for like $79, that you're still actually, I think, building in quite a lot of profit even at the cost. Like, I don't know. Unless it's way more expensive for these companies to build pedals than we know. There are around 35 employees was what I found online working at JHS. And I think they work in Kansas City, right? And there's actually a really cool video about how they make pedals. So you can see some of the process and stuff. I think a lot of the boards themselves are... How do I get this bit off? Are surface mounted, right? So wave soldered. So there's not...
Surface mounting is not wave soldering. Wave soldering is through-hole parts where the legs go through the PCB and a wave solder is put across it. So surface mounted parts are pasted to the board and then soldered in an oven. Again, this stuff gets repeated and people will now say surface mount parts are wave soldered. It's hard. It's hard to keep a straight narrative for your small business on the internet. It's really difficult.
It's just assembly that they're more or less doing, right? There's not huge amounts of cost involved in actually soldering these boards. They're not hand wired or anything.
Okay, I kind of don't know what rabbit trail to go on here. All right, so he's saying there's $79. He's saying we must be adding in tons of other costs and that there's not a lot of cost involved in the circuit boards. In 2023 alone, I spent $2.6 million on PCBs. If that's not a lot of money, then I don't know. I'll go be a circus clown somewhere. I don't even, if that's $2.6 million is insane. That's how much I spent just on PCBs. And these are in America. I'm not having my PCBs made in China. Lots of companies are. I actually don't have a problem with this. I'm choosing to do America, but a lot of the companies you know and love, you're not aware they're having them done in China. And that's fine. I might actually do that on something parallel, some other product at some point, maybe some other genre of something. Let's go from there. $2.6 million is a lot of money. Now, let's talk about the costs. So let's stick to the Ross. This is complicated because he's talking about a Ross pedal, but he's holding a Legends of Fuzz. So I'll try to do both, and they're very similar. Ross pedals are about $55 a piece. That is in parts. That's the circuit board. That's the enclosure. That's the physical thing he's fixated on, rightly so. Holding the parts. This is the argument I could build this at home. So if my cost building 100,000-ish pedals a year in my in my ability to scale and get discount. You could not build a Ross pedal for less than $55. There's no way. Not at the quality I've done. There are 2 PCBs in that circuit, and there's soft touch bypass that's added to it. This is all USA made. There's a custom enclosure. There's custom color matched powder. This had to be custom mixed. Like we didn't buy any of this off the shelf. Then you have custom rigid boxes. I went back and replicated the vintage box that I love so much. This is not cheap. Then you have the ephemera booklet. No one has ever heard me say that took several weeks to get all of that consolidated down. Editors, it's a small book. We wrote a book and put it in there. I know it's not impressive as a book, but it's a lot of work. Then knobs, foot switches, and the little cap that goes on the switch. There's so much there to unpack. This is what's missing from this. Every JHS pedal made cost about, on an average, $20 in payroll. My payroll is enormous. Do the math on 40-ish employees living wages over 12 months. So that's also part of this. That's 75 parts plus payroll. That equals 75, those two things. Then there's a royalty on Ross. Not one person thinks about this. I don't own Ross. I didn't want to own Ross. I wanted it to stay in the Ross family. So I worked out a deal with Cameron. He got the trademark. He owns it for his family. And then I took over operation of his trademark. He gets a royalty. The family of Ross gets a royalty. I could have just made these, but I brought the family in and I'm paying a royalty because that's the right thing to do. Let me just read off a list. This is what came to the top of my head here. Rent, insurance, machinery, utilities, computers, software, property tax, repairs, transactional fees, legal fees, accounting fees, R&D. The mold alone to make these enclosures was $15,000 for the mold. This is on top of the 75. I have to treat it with averages because it's all different, but we are well beyond me making money on any of those that sold at midnight. And that's okay. That's also what we call cost of doing business. Sometimes in business, you just have a cost of doing the business. And in the case of Ross, I didn't make much money. And that was something I chose to do, and that's a cost. The opportunity, the attempt, the try, it cost me. That's a cost of doing business.
So
there's parts falling on the floor.
That's the extent of what's on the board. So this is a fuzz pedal. It's actually a really tiny little circuit. Interesting. I wonder if I can get this back together at all.
This is all of the parts of the JHS Crimson. So the enclosure. You know, you've got 2 bits here of metal. This was the part that is kind of mounting the circuit board on. This part of the circuit board actually broke off during disassembly.
Broke it.
That's a me problem.
Okay. At least he knows.
Then you've got the actual circuit board itself, which is pretty sparse. SMT, as you can see. Then you've got a ribbon cable connecting up this part here, which is obviously your jacks and your power, and then a battery supply. And then 3 knobs, plus the one making this video. And some screws and washers and stuff.
I appreciate his humor.
I don't know what, in terms of like actual parts here.
I want to chime in. I want to make sure I don't release like 10 years of pedal builder rage that no one else has been able to do. All of us feel this. But let me say this. A Morning Glory has been $199 for 15 years. Show me any other product besides the Costco hot dog value menu item that has stayed the same price without adjusting for inflation, and yet people still say it's too expensive. I lose more money every year on every pedal I make because I can't move my prices because I'm making them in America. And if I move that price, people will say I'm ripping them off. But every year I pay more for every part that's in every pedal, and I don't pass that on to you. So that does, in a very human way, I want to be transparent. It's frustrating. But we're doing fine. We're making enough money to still pay people well, but nobody's becoming a millionaire. It's just not happening. And I want to say, I don't think he's being malicious. I think he's asking honest questions. And I want to be sure that I don't like vomit all of that frustration on this video. But I'm a teacher and I love to teach. And this is a wonderful moment. So if nothing else, John, thank you for this moment to like really, this is therapy. This is pedal price therapy for me. Thank you. Yeah, I just want to be clear. Like, I'm not upset. I'm probably spicy. This is spicy, Josh.
What is the monetary value of this? In terms of labour with this, you know, it's all wave soldered. So it's the assembly part is what we're paying for, right? And for a total price that this was to you or I or Jason, who actually bought me this pedal for me just to ruin it on a video, let me know your thoughts.
So Jason, whoever you are, you bought a pedal and he took it apart and broke it for this video. I'm going to send you a new one. I'm going to send you a new one on me. Throw that one in the garbage. I'll eat the cost. I'll work it into my average cost of all pedals sold.
So you can see from the Noticlon thing that they're able to put these things to the market for way above their actual cost price, because that presumably has no assembly costs like this does. So actually,
No, man. The Noticlon has no dealer margin. Again, you didn't know what I've told you so far in the video. I have to back up. We don't sell pedals for what you buy them for, because the stores that you love, the Sweetwaters, the local shops that carry our pedals, they have to make money. So when I sell a $199 Morning Glory, I'm selling that pedal for like a little over $100 so that the store can make money. My typical margin is 35 to 50% off. So 80 to 90% of all my pedals sell to dealers at 35 to 50% off. The reason the Noticlon is $99, it's actually as hard to assemble for us. It has an extra box. It has all this packaging we had to make that's custom. It has way more hands-on than if we just built it. But the reason it works is because we got rid of the dealer margin. You're not understanding business to business. The whole world operates business to business. Every product you buy from a store is more expensive than it would be if the person sold it directly to you. But if they sold it directly to you, there's some massive problems. Economics doesn't work that way. Business doesn't work that way. And marketing doesn't work that way. You would probably never hear of us. We wouldn't have reputations through the dealers. We wouldn't be supporting music stores. Business to business model is the core and the heart of the pedal industry.
This thing probably takes about the same amount of time as assembling it, right? So if they come to them like this, I think they have to solder foot switches, was some part of what they're doing. But yeah, my question was, if you can get a, because these are generally not totally original circuits, right? Which is not to say that they have no value at all, but like they are in many cases clones, especially the Ross things. Now they're not hand wired like the original ones would have been, so there's some differences there anyway. And I think obviously at this point now we know that they were kind of a flop.
There's a lot to unpack. I mean, if selling 8,000 pedals was a flop, let's call it a flop. It's more Ross pedals than ever sold across 4 eras. It just turns out that this Ross thing isn't a good fit for us, and the market did reject it. So it is a flop, but also I'm still proud of it. Number one. Number two, let me listen to this one part one more time. I want to make sure I hear him correctly.
And especially the Ross things. Now they're not hand wired like the original ones would have been, so there's some differences there anyway.
So, hand wired versus surface mount, it's an exhausting argument that goes nowhere. So I won't comment to that. Sonically, noise, floor, and quality, these are made better than any Ross pedal ever made, and I would defend that to the T. Secondly, these are just clones. There's not really any R&D. That's a sentiment. This is a sentiment you see that's pretty wild. Most all pedals on the market, I would say 96% of every pedal you've ever seen is some variation of a famous topology, therefore a clone. That doesn't mean there's not R&D. I have made exact clones of pedals that I've sold to you. The Overdrive preamp, for instance, where I reversed a collectible. The Legends of Fuzz are exact clones. The R&D work on exacting a clone is insanely difficult. The Bonsai, Packrat, muffaletta, the amount of effort cloning those, it would have been easier to make an original circuit. There's a huge misnomer that research and development, R&D, doesn't apply to cloning. It's ridiculous because you still have to do the exact same work. You have to lay out the PCB, the mechanical of the case. You have to test it. You have to make sure it's viable for all power supplies, all marketplaces. You have to make sure your part supplies are there, your bill of materials. You have to be a good engineer to clone something. This argument's really, there's no meat on the bone. I see this argument all the time. Secondly, thirdly, wherever we're at, the Ross pedals are not exact clones. They are improvements. They have a second mode which introduces a modification or another circuit. They also have a really high-end bypass system that has never existed in the Ross line. High-grade buffers, soft-touch bypass. I mean, there's just so much to say here about there's no R&D. There's always R&D. The worst pedal builder making the worst clone you've ever seen that's exactly part for part something else has R&D. And it costs money and time.
And I think, obviously, at this point now, we know that they were kind of a flop. How do I get that through? It's just interesting to me, like, what it actually takes into building these pedals. So I think, cynically, I'm pretty cynical, right? I tend to think that a lot of these things are somewhat overpriced.
I love his honesty.
I've now lost my mode switch.
He thinks they're overpriced.
But yeah, let me know in the comments what you think. Like, $79, there's rust in this, as I said. Where's that come from? Are we getting ripped off by these pedal manufacturers? Or, yeah, what do you think? Because to me, it still seems like even if they're blowing them out at $79, I can't imagine that there's $79 of... Like, that must be building in, like, a huge marketing budget and all these sorts of things and making the documentary. I think that's how you get to the cost price of $70.
The documentary has nothing to do with the cost of the pedals. It's not a factor in pricing. It's a cost of doing business. It's a general marketing expense.
$9 per unit rather than it actually being, $79 worth of work to get these things. You know, you're building in some R&D, but, you know, that's a pedal that existed before. It's cooked now. Well, I guess it was worth it for making the video. So, yeah, that's a JHS Crimson cooked. How much does it, like a little circuit board like this cost to make? Can't be loads of money, can it? Let me know in the comments.
Okay, so 2.6 million in PCBs alone, 2023. Cost of goods sold. That's every part I bought in 23 cases, the whole thing. I spent about $5 million. 2023, my net profit was 5%. Nobody's over here. I'm not buying Montana, and I don't own the Lakers. Like, it just doesn't happen. Anyone with any business knowledge can take those numbers and go, oh, they're paying living wage to employees and they're getting taxed to death. That's what you're going to learn from that. Average net sales of all my pedals is about $105. Total revenue divided by total pedals shipped. That's the math problem. That's business to business. That's the model. Just to break down some Legends of Fuzz math, because he's asking for it. You didn't mention the badge on the front. That badge cost $8. It's custom made in America. It's stuck onto the plate like the vintage Japanese pedals. That enclosure's $8.20. That crimson that you took apart, the enclosure alone, badge, case, paint, $16. That's wild. That is really expensive. The crimson bomb that you held in your hand, it's almost $40. It's actually one of the cheaper ones for us to make. It makes up some of the slack in the more expensive Supreme or Mary Kay. But plus $20 average net labor, you're almost at $60. And then that doesn't count any of the things I mentioned, like healthcare, insurance, taxes, buying a program for your HR department. You know, none of that. Average net sales across the Legends of Fuzz, because we're business to business, $110 per unit. I'm not making much money on those. So, yeah, I love this. Again, John, I don't want to come off like I'm not even the least bit angry at you. I'm actually glad you did the video. It gave me this opportunity to process some of this because I love the educational side of pedals. When pedal companies do good across the board, we all do good. All my friends are so talented. All my friends' companies are so good. And we get these kind of things thrown at us all the time. And I'm happy to step out vulnerably and get beat to shreds in the comments over this, just to say this stuff. Because it gets old seeing the posts that we're ripping people off and we made $10 million in 8 minutes and oh my God, it's just not how it works. So if you like this video, hit like, subscribe to the channel. There's a bell icon. You can get notifications of future episodes. Let me know what you think. Let me know if I missed anything you'd like an answer to. I don't know what else to say. This was fun. I got spicy, but I did it because I care. And John, you're a great player. If I have your address, I'll send you some pedals. I think you're a great player. And I'm sorry that you broke your pedal. We do not recommend disassembling. You did void the warranty. But because I'm Josh and I can, I'm going to bypass and forgive your transgression and take care of that for you. All right. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.